A recent ruling by a federal appeals court has upheld the constitutional principle of birthright citizenship, striking down an executive order from the Trump administration that sought to restrict it. This decision reinforces the prevailing interpretation of the 14th Amendment, which has long been understood to grant citizenship to nearly anyone born on U.S. soil. The core of the issue lies in the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, ratified in 1868. Its first sentence, known as the Citizenship Clause, states, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside." For over a century, this clause has been widely interpreted by legal scholars and courts to mean that birth in the United States, regardless of parents' immigration status, generally confers citizenship. The Trump administration's executive order aimed to narrow this interpretation, arguing that the phrase "subject to the jurisdiction thereof" did not apply to children of undocumented immigrants or those on temporary visas. They contended that only Congress or a constitutional amendment could alter this right, yet the executive order attempted to do so unilaterally. This sparked numerous lawsuits from states and civil rights groups. The appeals court's decision affirms that the executive branch does not have the authority to redefine birthright citizenship. It underscored that such a fundamental change to who is considered an American citizen would require a constitutional amendment, a process far more involved than an executive order. This ruling is a significant win for immigration advocates and reinforces the legal framework of birthright citizenship as it has been understood for generations. The issue surrounding birthright citizenship in the United States, particularly the Trump administration's attempt to curtail it, stems from several interconnected reasons. 1. Interpretation of the 14th Amendment. The central point of contention is the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment, which states, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside." While traditionally interpreted to grant citizenship to virtually anyone born on U.S. soil, known as jus soli, or right of the soil, some, including the Trump administration, argue for a narrower reading. They contend that "subject to the jurisdiction thereof" excludes children born to parents who are not legal residents or citizens, believing these individuals owe allegiance to a foreign power. 2. Concerns over undocumented immigration. A primary driver for those seeking to limit birthright citizenship is the belief that it acts as a magnet for undocumented immigration. Proponents of restriction often use terms like anchor babies, suggesting that individuals come to the U.S. specifically to give birth, thereby securing citizenship for their child, which can then potentially facilitate family reunification later. Mug 3. National sovereignty and control. Arguments against birthright citizenship are also rooted in notions of national sovereignty. Some believe that a nation should have more control over who becomes its citizens, and that birthright citizenship, as currently understood, undermines this control by automatically granting citizenship based solely on geographic location at birth. 4. Perceived abuse of the system. While statistically a small number, instances of birth tourism, where foreign nationals travel to the U.S. solely to give birth to a U.S. citizen child, are cited by opponents of birthright citizenship as evidence of abuse and a reason for change. 5. Political and ideological stance. The debate is heavily influenced by political and ideological viewpoints, particularly on immigration. Restricting birthright citizenship aligns with a more restrictive stance on immigration and a desire to reduce the overall number of immigrants. 6. Historical context and intent. While the 14th Amendment was largely enacted to ensure citizenship for formerly enslaved people after the Civil War, those seeking to restrict birthright citizenship argue that its original intent did not encompass children of non-citizens or those not fully subject to the jurisdiction in a political sense. However, the prevailing legal and historical consensus, as affirmed by the recent appeals court ruling, largely contradicts this narrow interpretation. The appeals court's decision underscores that altering birthright citizenship is not a matter for executive action, but a constitutional question requiring a far more rigorous process, highlighting the deep legal and philosophical divides on this issue. The recent appeals court ruling, which struck down the Trump administration's attempt to end birthright citizenship, has several significant consequences, both immediate and long-term. Immediate consequences: upholding the status quo. The most direct consequence is that birthright citizenship, as enshrined in the 14th Amendment and affirmed by over a century of legal precedent, remains intact. Children born on U.S. soil continue to automatically be U.S. citizens, regardless of their parents' immigration status. Legal clarity, for now. The ruling provides legal clarity on this specific executive action, confirming that a president cannot unilaterally alter a constitutional right through an executive order. This prevents a period of uncertainty and potential chaos regarding the citizenship status of thousands of children. Victory for advocates. The decision is a significant victory for civil rights and immigrant advocacy groups who have consistently argued for the protection of birthright citizenship. Potential long-term consequences: avoidance of a stateless underclass. Had the ban been upheld, it would have created a growing population of individuals born in the U.S. who are not citizens of any country. This could lead to a marginalized multi-generational underclass with limited access to education, healthcare, legal employment, and basic rights, potentially fostering social instability and economic disadvantage. Preservation of societal cohesion. Birthright citizenship helps integrate individuals into American society from birth, fostering social cohesion. Its repeal could have led to a deeply divided society with a permanent othered population lacking full participation in civic life. Bureaucratic complexity. Ending birthright citizenship would introduce immense bureaucratic hurdles. Proving citizenship would become far more complex, potentially leading to delays in accessing essential services and creating administrative nightmares for government agencies. Continued legal scrutiny. While the appeals court ruling blocks the executive order, the underlying debate about birthright citizenship is likely to continue. Future administrations or legislative bodies might pursue constitutional amendments to alter birthright citizenship, which would initiate a much larger and more complex political battle. Reinforcement of constitutional principles. The ruling reinforces the principle that fundamental constitutional rights cannot be easily overridden by executive fiat. It underscores the importance of the judiciary as a check on executive power and the stability provided by established constitutional interpretations. In essence, the consequence of this ruling is the preservation of a foundational principle of American law and identity, averting a scenario that could have led to profound social, economic, and humanitarian challenges. The recent federal appeals court ruling striking down the Trump administration's executive order on birthright citizenship sets the stage for several predictable developments, though the ultimate fate of this contentious issue remains uncertain. 1. Continued legal battles, likely to the Supreme Court. While the appeals court affirmed the traditional interpretation, the Trump administration has indicated it may seek further review. The issue is highly likely to reach the Supreme Court, especially given the current conservative majority. However, a recent Supreme Court decision in June 2025, while related to the birthright citizenship executive order, focused primarily on the scope of lower courts' ability to issue nationwide injunctions, rather than the constitutionality of the order itself. This means the underlying constitutional question about the 14th Amendment's application to birthright citizenship for children of non-citizens has yet to be definitively ruled upon by the highest court. 2. Emphasis on constitutional amendment. Should the executive order ultimately fail in the courts, opponents of birthright citizenship will likely intensify calls for a constitutional amendment. This is a significantly more challenging path, requiring a 2/3 vote in both the House and Senate, followed by ratification by 3/4 of the states. Such a high bar makes a successful amendment unlikely in the near term, but it will remain a significant political objective for some. Number 3. Political rhetoric and election issue. Birthright citizenship will continue to be a potent political talking point, especially during election cycles. It resonates strongly with segments of the electorate concerned about immigration and national sovereignty. Candidates will likely use it to highlight their stances on immigration reform and constitutional interpretation. 4. Potential for patchwork enforcement if Supreme Court narrows injunctions. If the Supreme Court does rule specifically on the ability of lower courts to issue nationwide injunctions against federal policies, it could lead to a fragmented system. This means that a birthright citizenship ban, if ever allowed to proceed, might be effective in some states or regions while remaining blocked in others, creating legal and social confusion. 5. Focus on other immigration levers. With direct executive action on birthright citizenship facing significant judicial hurdles, administrations seeking to restrict immigration may instead focus on other policy levers. This could include stricter enforcement at the border, increased deportations, changes to legal immigration pathways, or alterations to the naturalization process. In essence, while the recent court ruling provides a temporary reaffirmation of birthright citizenship, it does not end the debate. Instead, it shifts the battleground, ensuring that this fundamental aspect of U.S. citizenship will remain a central point of legal and political contention for the foreseeable future.